today we are talking about how before I identified as lesbian, I identified as bisexual and why I think that's important to talk about.
She's the one I'm thinking of. Hey, the only one I'm thinking of. Hey, she's everything I'm dreaming of. Hey, the one that I can live without.
Hey humans, what's up? I'm Breanne Williamson. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and stopping by. If you're not already subscribed, please do. Please also hit that bell button and make sure that your post notifications are turned on. Comment down below, like this video. What else can you do? You can share with your friends and your family. Honestly, anything helps. I'm an LGBTQ plus creator, and we know that certain algorithms are not on our side. So I really appreciate you humans who try and spread the good gay word. So today I'm actually filming on my iPhone because I don't have too much time to put together my whole setup. So if the audio's off, if the picture's off, I apologize. But after this, I am heading to my sister's apartment because her and her husband are just returning from Australia. And as we all know, there is a lot of craziness going on in the world right now, and they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So I went out and bought them groceries and wine and beer, and I'm gonna go drop that off at their place so that they can literally come home from the airport and then not leave. But yeah, I don't have too much time before they get home because as much as I would love to see them and hug them, I cannot because we're all trying to stay safe here. So I gotta get there before they do. I hope all of you are staying safe. I just have to say, please do your best to stay at home unless necessary. Obviously, people have to go to work. Obviously, there's things that people have to go out and do, like shop for themselves, take care of their families. I get it. But when it comes to unnecessary stuff like parties, bars, clubs, group gatherings, do it over Skype. Stay at home, catch up on Netflix, catch up on your favorite YouTubers, and you can also check out my podcast at I Can Explain Podcast. You can search that anywhere. Most people listen on Apple Podcast or iTunes. Just search I Can Explain Podcast. We have over 77 episodes of LGBTQ plus topics, from queer sex to coming out and everything in between. If you can think about it, we've probably talked about it, and it's a lot of fun. And also something to put on in the background while you're at home self-isolating, because it is a comedy podcast as much as we do talk about serious topics. Our main goal is to make people laugh. So it's definitely something that's gonna brighten your day no matter what episode you click on. And it's a good time to catch up on all 77 episodes. So I'll link it in the description down below. Okay, let's get to it. So today is another episode of I Heard She's a Lesbian. This is my favorite series. I talk about LGBTQ plus topics and how they relate to me specifically as someone who identifies as a lesbian. But today we are talking about how before I identified as a lesbian, I identified as bisexual and why I think that's important to talk about. I think a lot of lesbian identifying individuals steer clear of this topic, even though it is very common, is because we don't want it to come off like we are saying that bisexuality is a stepping stone sexuality, that it's not valid, that there aren't people who are bisexual. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Bisexuality is valid. It is a very real identity. It is not a stepping stone identity for so many people. However, it is a very common thing for lesbians to come out as bisexual before they come out as lesbian. And here's why I think that is. With any identity under the LGBTQ plus spectrum, and especially depending on who you talk to, there are stereotypes. There is homophobia, there is negativity put onto various labels for different reasons. So we've talked about how one of the stereotypes of bisexuality is that it is a stepping stone sexuality. There's this odd dynamic, right? Because when a male comes out as bisexual, oftentimes people assume that he's gay. When a female comes out as bisexual, people assume that she is heterosexual, but either trying to get attention or just wants to hook up with females or just wants to look hot to men or whatever. There's all sorts of stereotypes underlying that. But it's strange how that is, because when a guy identifies as bisexual, it's like, okay, he's gay. He's just too afraid to tell us yet. But when a female does it, no one really believes her. And it's almost downplayed as a sexuality. It's like, okay, whatever, you're bisexual. Like, we all know you're heterosexual. You're just trying to get attention. I believe none of this, okay? I'm not gonna lie when I say that I definitely utilize this stereotype to my benefit. I don't really know how to word this. In some ways I'm sorry, and in a lot of ways I'm not sorry, because part of the reason that I did was because I was scared for my safety, because coming out is a really terrifying thing, and also I was just figuring out my own sexuality. So saying that I was a lesbian seemed so absolute. Identifying as a bisexual didn't seem so be all end all to me at the time. And I definitely played off of this stereotype because I was aware that if I said I was bisexual, I was at least acknowledging that I wasn't heterosexual and acknowledging that I did in fact like girls and I was interested in girls. But I kind of knew that a lot of people wouldn't take it very seriously. And because of that, I felt like I'd lose less friends. I felt like my family would just kind of write it off and say, oh, whatever, she's just going through a phase. She's, you know, this is what the kids are saying these days. She's still gonna end up with a guy down the road. And I think there was a bit of a safety net in that because at the end of the day, I felt like if people assumed that there was a possibility that, okay, yes, I could go have my fun with females, but at the end of the day, I was gonna marry a guy, I was gonna have kids with a guy, I was gonna live a heteronormative life, that there would be less pushback to me coming out. So definitely, I took advantage of a lot of those stereotypes. In my opinion, this is unique to women in particular, because as I mentioned earlier, when men come out as bisexual, people assume they're gay. It's almost the opposite for females. I don't know why that is. Well, I do in a lot of ways, but that's for a whole other video. So yes, I did take advantage of these stereotypes. I think a lot of people do. It feels like a safety net. It feels like, you know what, if I don't say I'm full-on lesbian, I can still come back from this. If I say that I'm bisexual, I can still date men. I can still kind of like figure out my sexuality and people won't get as freaked out. It's also an easy way to explain your sexuality when you get outed as hooking up with a female or dating a female. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just trying this out, but don't worry, I still like guys too. All these stereotypes are so unfortunate for the bisexual community. And I acknowledge that, and I'm so sorry for anyone who deals with them. I think anything that doesn't feel so absolute feels safer. Anywhere in between heterosexual and gay or lesbian, whether it's pansexual, queer, bisexual, when you're figuring out your sexuality, it's almost easier to take on one of those labels because it doesn't seem as like if I say I'm a lesbian, then no guy is ever gonna date me. What if I'm wrong? I would say that at least half of my friend group that identify as lesbians came out as bisexual first. So it's a very common thing. And I definitely see that that's where a lot of people get this idea that bisexuality is a stepping stone sexuality, because there are so many people in the LGBTQ plus community that start by identifying as bisexual and then say, hey, hold up, no, actually identify as gay or lesbian. So here's what I want to say to that. It is a very common thing. However, you have to listen to people when they tell you who they are. If they're telling you they're bisexual, they're bisexual. It doesn't matter if you think that actually they're gay or actually they're a lesbian or actually they're heterosexual. If someone is identifying as any label, you need to believe them. I also felt like this was an important video to make because in a way, maybe it will take away from that stigma and that stereotype that bisexual people are just on some stepping stone path. Because I am admitting as a lesbian that I was never bisexual. I was always a lesbian. So if you're watching this and you think bisexuality is a stepping stone, no, it's not, because I was never bisexual in the first place. There's a lot of people who are bisexual and they will forever be bisexual and they will forever identify as bisexual. I am not one of those people, but it does not mean that those people are any less valid. And if you're out there watching and you do not know how to identify and it's stressing you out and labels are scary, I've been there, I get it. And a lot of the reason that I identified as bisexual is because I felt so much pressure to take on a label. I felt like I needed to label myself and I wasn't ready to call myself a lesbian yet. So I just want to say to you that you do not ever need to label yourself. You can just be you at the end of the day. You can live as you for the rest of your life and just say, hey, I'm me. I don't take on labels. I date and love and hook up with and associate with whoever I please, and it's none of your business. I don't need to explain it to you. However, if you are one of those people that loves labels or you're using labels as a necessity to easily explain yourself, just know that you do not need to stick with one label. You're allowed to take time to figure out your sexuality, and if that means changing your label down the line, that is totally okay and valid, and you do not need to explain yourself. I know that's what I am doing in this video, but I'm doing it because I'm trying to help people that maybe feel like they're stuck in a label that doesn't make sense anymore. Maybe they feel guilty for labeling themselves as something else prior, but hey, listen, give yourself a break because we live in a very heteronormative society. Coming out is scary. And a lot of times we're navigating that on our own and we're trying to figure things out on our own because we haven't come out to anyone yet. So don't put so much pressure on yourself to get it right or do it the right way. Make sure you're safe. Do what feels comfortable for you and reach out for help when you need it. If you humans want a little bit more of an explanation on why I identified as bisexual based on my previous dating history before I came out, spoiler alert, I dated guys, then comment down below, let me know, and I can do kind of a part 2 to this video on why I identified as bisexual and kind of figuring out my own sexuality with my dating history. If you're interested in that, like this video, comment down below, let me know. And as always, please make sure to subscribe, hit that bell button and turn your post notifications on. Share with your friends, especially if this is something that you think they could use in their time of isolation. And all of you humans out there, stay healthy. I love you so, so much. The lighting is crazy. Oh, get that vitamin D while I still can.